All right, then. So now in this concept, we're going to understand how to use the functions like function declarations and function invocation, right? So basically in the C program, we need to understand what is the functions and everything, right? So let's start that. So I'm going to clean up this code completely. Let me open the multi-line comments, and here we are trying to understand the functions. So in the C programming, functions are modular block of codes that performs a specific task. They help in organizing and simplifying the code. Once the functions are declared or defined, and it's being invoked in a several different ways, right? So we are going to discuss how they are being defined and declared, and how they are being invoked in a several different ways, right? Because there are different ways. So to keep it simple, functions are nothing but functions are the block of codes are reused again inside the program at some point during the execution. So we need the same lines of code again at some point at somewhere else. So we need that code. So we need to recall that code to get executed in the same program during the same execution time, right? So that's the reason we use the functions. So basically, you need to understand how to declare a function. So first, let's understand how to declare a function. That means creating a function. So you need to give the return type of the function. Then you need to give the function name, a specific function name. Then you need to supply the parameters. Parameters are nothing but the inputs, parameter 1 and parameter 2 and so on, right? And here you need to open and close it. And here, this is the place where you need to give the block of codes, what you need to do in that function. And at the end, you need to supply the return statement. If you are using void, so you don't need to return anything, unless if you are using int or float, so you should return an int or float at the end of that function, right? This is the custom defined function, which means you can say simply user defined function. So function, like you can see, we do have two different types, right? Type number 1, that is the predefined function. Predefined function. And the type number 2 is the user defined function, right? Predefined function and user defined function. So basically the predefined functions are nothing but the printf, scanf, main functions. These are the functions which is already returned inside the header files, so they should react according to that, right? That's a predefined function. And the user defined functions are customly designed by the user for a very specific task. So the logics and everything is going to be custom. So that's the user defined functions. So in that custom defined functions, you need to understand that there are several different ways, right? You need to understand, you need to keep it in mind. There are several different variants on the function. So you can create a function with parameter and the return statement. That which means you can expect that function to collect the input and process it and return the output to the same place where it's get invoked. Then the second variant, function with parameter but without return statement. So this function will take an input, but it doesn't return any output. Then the function without parameter and with return statement. So this function doesn't take any input, but it will return an output. So the function without both parameter and the return statement. So this is a function which doesn't take any input and doesn't return any output. This is a guy who's an independent, and whenever you need it, he comes and execute and it goes away. So that's the thing. So these are the different variants of the functions to get created and been used. So let's discuss about these variants later. First, let's understand how to define a very simple custom user defined functions, right? So for instance, let's say over here, hash include stdio dot hatch, and now I need to create that function. So first, what you need to do, you need to define the return type of that function. So I'm going to use the void because void doesn't return anything, so I don't need to return anything. So we are going to use this method, function without parameter and the return statement. So here I'm just going to say hello world, open it. So, and I'm not going to supply any inputs to this function, and I'm not going to supply any inputs to that function because it's not going to take any inputs, or it's not going to take any output. So printf, and I'm going to say hello world slash, and at the very end we are using the slashing. So this is the hello world. Then I'm going to call the main function int main, open it. So, and at the end I need to keep the return 0 because it's an int main function, so we need to return a number. And I'm going to call this hello world. So you can keep on call this hello world, that doesn't matter how many times you want to call it. So you can just copy and paste, and you can call it the several number of times as much you want. So that will execute the code. So what happens is the compiler will trigger the main function, then it will execute this line. It will call this hello world. So compiler will go and look for this very specific function inside this location itself. Then it will figure it out. This is the function. Then it will execute this statement, and then it will come back to the same line that will be executed. Then it will move to the next line. This will execute it. Then it will move to the next line. This will execute it. This is how the function will get executed every single time. So let me stop and let me rerun it. And you can see hello world, hello world, hello world. So this is the simple example for understanding the function, like how to declare and how to use it and how to call it, how to invoke it. So this is how the functions are used in the C program. Now let's understand how the variants and everything will work one after another, right? And later we will discuss with the different examples to understand those variants in a much better way. So for instance, what we can do is, so let's say that I want to create a function. The function should take a number as an input. So void calc or display age something. So I'm going to take an age as a number, so int age. So that's a temporary. So this is called a functional parameter, functional, you can say a function variable. So that variable is accessible only inside that specific function. So now all I have to do is to go here and let's say age colon %d and comma age, right? So we are going to send the input, and that input will be printed over here. Save these changes. And now after here, I'm just going to say call that display age method, and I'm going to supply the age as 20 if semicolon and paste it. Execute it. Now you can see it's printing the age as 20. So this is how you can supply an input to a function. So think about it, that if you're sending an input and as well as that you're expecting an output from it. So I'm going to return a number int, and I'm going to create a function as return a number. That's the function that I'm trying to create. So please keep it in mind, don't use the keyword as a function name, right? Then I'm going to create a number. I'm going to pass that number, and I'm going to return that same number back. Return that same number outside of this function. Like it's just a bypass channel, right? I'm going to send a number to this function, and that function is going to return the same number back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say printf. I'm going to call this return number. So %d, because we know that function is going to return a number. Then I'm going to call this function over here, and I'm going to send the number as 20, right? So, and along with this, I'm just going to say returned number colon, right? Let me execute this, and you can see it's showing us the returned number is 20. The reason is why, because I called this function and I'm sending this number as 20. This 20 will pass over here to this very specific variable, and that will be returned back to the same location where it's get called. So the 20 will come back to the same location, and it will be printed in this specific point. Or if you wish to keep it in a same another local variable, you can pass that local variable over here if you wish to keep that output as an input for some other else. So these are the different variants that I'm talking about: function with without parameter and without return statement, function with parameter and without return statement, function with both parameter and the return statement. These are the different variants. So, and the next session, what we are going to do, we are going to use these functions to work with different examples and how to keep this function in the function code and everything in an organized way, and how to create some reusable kind of stuff like with menu options and everything. So that's what we are going to discuss in the next session. All right, then in this section we are going to write a program where we are going to use all the concepts which we learned so far: the looping, the functions, the switch cases, and the conditional statements and everything. Right, we are going to combine everything and we are going to create some realistic program. Right, so basically what we are going to do is we are going to write a C program that allows the user to choose finding the factorial of a number and checking if a number is even or not. These are the two different programs. So these two different programs are maintained in a two separate functions to manage the task easier, right? And we are going to repeat the options. The user can choose the option which he wants to execute, and we are going to repeat the same option until the user choose to exit the program manually, right? Like a real menu functions what we used to see in the ATM, right? We choose the option and it will moves into that specific section, it will execute that programs, and if you click exit, it will exit the program, right? That's the exact same stuff that we are trying to do now. So in this case, I'm going to clean up this code a little bit, right? So let's start it from the ground. All right, cool. So here hash include stdio.h, right? So now we need to start the main function. Main, open it. Later we'll worry about the function, and this is going to return 0 semicolon. Here we need the choice ch, and we need the number. Right? These are the two different variables that we need. For finding the factorial, we need to create a loop variable. Okay, that we can create that specific variable inside that function. All right, so cool. So now we need to list out the option, right? And that option needs to certainly run until a certain number of times, but we don't know how many times the user wants to repeat the same stuff. So what kind of loop that we need to use? We need to go for an infinite loop. So in that case, we need to go for a while loop. So what is the condition will be? So while simply returning the value as 1, while 1, which means in that case true. If you return 0, which means false. So while 1 means true, while the condition is true, we need to jump in and we need to list out these options. Okay, choose an option. So we need to say the user choose an option. Choose an option /n semicolon. Then we need to list out the options. Print of option number 1, find factorial /n. Option number 2, check if a number is even or not. Okay, go /n. Then select your choice colon semicolon. Then read the choice from the user %d comma ampersand c semicolon. Now we need to pass this into the switch case. Switch, supply the choice, open it. If the case is 1, the selected case is 1, we need to write we just need to say find the factorial. So this is the statement. Then we just need to, what we need to do, we need to break this case. Then case 2, we are just going to say printf check a number is even or not an even. That's the program that we are trying to do over that point, and we need to break it. And we are going to do the case 3, which we have it listed out over here. So over here, this is going to be the third option. That is going to be the exit slash n. We forgot to do that. So if the user wish to exit, that's the option number 3, all we have to do is to return. That's all. We just need to say return 0. The reason why we are returning 0, because this 0 will terminate this loop and it will be execute the program, terminate the program, right? That's the case 3. That's what we are going to keep it in the case 3. So if you wish to give some attractive statement like exiting the program, goodbye, something like this, goodbye, and slash semicolon, right? And at last we need to keep the default cases as well. As by default, I'm just going to say printf invalid option, please choose a valid option, slash semicolon, right? So let's make sure whether this program is completely working fine or not. Save these changes because we need to make sure this while loop stuffs and everything is working fine. Let's run it. Okay, so at that point we are getting the error over here. What is that? Okay, print up, save it, run it. Okay, so now it's asking choose an option, find a factorial, choose if a number is even or not, and third option number is exit. So if I choose option number 1, you can see find the factorial, choose an option, and it's listing out the same option, right? So choose an option, it should come at the end, which means I need to add this slash n over here. Save these changes, right? So at this point I'm gonna add one empty line over here, so to keep it clean. Save it, run it, choose an option, option number 1, choose an option again, option number 2. So now it's showing check a number is even or not. All right, so here choose an option, it's showing option number 3, exit the program, exiting the program, goodbye, right? So which means the menu option which we are expected, it's working as fine as we expected, right? It's working fine. Now what I need to do is to find the factorial. So basically what is the factorial? 5 factorial means, like we used to learn it in the schoolings on this in 8th or 10th grade, I think so, in the maths subject, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create int factorial open, and it's going to take a number, open it. So basically what is the factorial means? For instance, if you're supplying 5 factorial, so we need to find the multiplications of 5 star, 4 star, 3 star, 2 star, 1. This will be the answer of your 5 factorial, right? So this is how you should calculate the factorials, right? So that's what we are going to do, and that's how we are going to write the factorial program. All right, so here, so we are going to make this factorial function as a recursive function. So basically recursive means a function calls itself again and again for several number of times until it reaches that condition and close it. So you need to fix the stopping point first, because a function calls itself again and again, it became an infinite function sometime if you not fix your stopping point. In this case, our stopping point is if the given number is equals to 0, or if the number is equals to 1. So I need to return the answer as 1. If not, then only I need to calculate that factorial. So I'm going to return that number star factorial of that number minus 1. Okay, so initially the number is going to be 5, so we are trying to find out the factorial of 5 minus 1, which is 4. So the next time when your function is calling again itself, it's going to be 4, and here it's going to be 3, then 3, 2, then 2 and 1, and once it's sending the value as 1, it will matches this condition and return the value as 1. So the function will be terminated. So the stopping point here is the most important thing, right? So what we're trying to do over here is, so this function, let's scroll down and let's call this over here. Instead of printing something like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user to enter a number. So printf /n, or enter the number, okay, colon, semicolon, then read the number from the user, %d, comma, ampersand number, semicolon. Now printf, let's say factorial of the given number 5 is %d /n, comma, first you need to supply the number, then you need to call the factorial method, factorial of that specific number, semicolon. So now if I run this, okay, semicolon is missing, run it. So find the factorial, 5 factorial, 5 factorial is 120. Look at that. Yes, because 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, what's the 5 4s are 20, 20 into 3 60, 60 into 2 120, and 120 into 1 120. That's the answer. Okay, that's the answer of the 5 factorial. So this is how the recursive function will work. For a recursive function, the stopping point is the really important thing. So you need to fix the stopping point, and then you need to make that function to call itself again and again and again. So at some point it will reach that stopping point, then the function will stop calling itself again and again, right? This is one function. And now let's write the function for an even number, right? So int is even, open it, and I'm going to supply that same number, open it, and I'm going to say return number %2 equals to 0. This is the this is the answer. This is the function that we're trying to do over here. So what I'm going to do is, this point over here, delete it. I'm just going to ask the same thing, enter the number, copy and paste it. Okay, so or else what you can do, you can keep this also as a separate functions. Instead of repeating the same stuff again and again, you can keep this also as a separate functions to get that number, to read it and get that number whenever you need it, right? So what we can do is, in this case, I'm just going to keep it as it is, and I'm going to check the if condition, right? So if is even that number, so we are sending that number if this condition is true, right? If you're getting the, if this condition is getting equal to 0, then what it will be written? It will return the Boolean value as true. If this condition gets true, what we want to do, we just need to say printf %d is an even number /n, comma, number, else, let's copy this, paste it, is not an even number. Save the changes, run it. Option number 2, 20 is an even number. Option number 1, factorial, find the factorial of 6, 120, okay, 5 is 120, right? 6 is 720. And if I wish to exit this program, hit exit, exiting the program, goodbye, right? So this is how we make use of the while loop, the infinite while loop, to keep repeating the same options and again until I forcefully close that function. Then how to create an interactive recursive function by using by making that same function to call itself again and again, and how to use the switch statement in a more interactive way by combining the while and the switch together to make it more interactive. So this is how we will use these options in a real time development. All right, I hope you enjoy this program. So please make use of it and try the same stuff with the different programs, right? All right, so without wasting your time, further, let's jump into the next concept.